Sorry, I was trying to be... You get my point. Anyways, what is up? This is Matthew Davis, me once again. Welcome back to another movie review, aka After I Saw. This time is going to be on A Quiet Place Day 1. Just like the title suggests, this is how it all started before the events of the first two movies, where we were following a family. This time we're following into two different people who are from separate families. And of course, how it all started. How all those creatures with no eyes but have really good sense of hearing came from outer space and came to take over the entire world, and everybody has to remain quiet or else they'll be in deep pain. And we follow Lupita Nyong'o as she travels all the way south with her pet cat and runs into a man played by Joseph Quinn, and they start having some sort of a bond throughout the movie. And remember when I said in my last cooking video, the pizza one, where it was really hard for me to make out like exactly what pieces of media besides Ninja Turtles involved pizza in a very unique way? Well, I found another movie. This movie. As apparently Lupita Nyong'o is going throughout the city to get some pizza. So, yeah, found another movie, and I did kind of want pizza after, but I had pizza not too long ago, but I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see. Now, this, of course, being a prequel, this film is not directed by John Krasinski, despite the fact that John Krasinski already had another movie coming out this year. That's not a horror movie, but the exact opposite. But yeah, with this movie, I was a little nervous because John Krasinski, I feel like with his terrific direction and characters I actually cared about, that's really what managed to make the movie so good. And not just the fact that it had a really unique concept that they nailed almost perfectly. But I feel like even with this movie, without those characters, I generally didn't really... I mean, of course, I did miss seeing them on screen, but of course, they don't show up until, of course, when the first movie comes around. So that makes up for it. As these characters, I actually really liked. Lupita Nyong'o is a great actress, and I feel like she really nailed her role in this movie. I mean, when it opens up, it feels like a completely different movie, but after the first 10 minutes, it definitely changes, and giving you that, sensitive noise feeling that you're used to seeing in these movies. And even Joseph Quinn is also very strong here, and throughout a lot of the movie, she has a service animal being a cat, and when it comes to cats in horror movies, that terrifies me. So I'm just going to give you a brief spoiler about what happens to the cat, okay? So yeah, I'm just going to warn you right now. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save that for the end of the video just in case. So yeah, I'm just going to tell you that right now. But anyways, as for the rest of the movie, when it comes to the atmosphere of the film, I really love how, when it comes to these creatures, how there's a lot more of them rather than there just being a few. I mean, it's something I kind of expected. I was worried that this might kind of turn out more like an action film, but it doesn't. People have nothing to defend themselves other than distracting the creatures, and yeah, throughout a lot of the movie, it definitely has that sensitive feeling, and they generally do tend to get out of certain situations in very smart ways. Like, there's one scene involving lightning where they make a certain noise to break down a door. I thought that was very unique. And it does have some minor callback to the first film. I wouldn't really call them callbacks, just, how things work in the first movie, like in terms of, the scene involving the waterfall and how they're able to make noise during that. They kind of do that same thing here, but I'm not going to go any further with spoilers because there's actually quite a bit to this movie that, I will say, the movie's very basic. Just like the first two movies, they are very basic, but because the movies had such a unique concept that they managed to really pull off, and giving it that really, really disturbing tension despite its PG-13 rating, I feel like they managed to pull it off here as well. It's disturbing. You do see some bloody imagery once in a while, though when it came to the parts where they're just completely quiet but noise is about to happen, yeah, that did kind of tend to be a bit predictable. But truly what saved the film for me was its characters. I really like the chemistry between these two, despite the fact that they don't talk to each other, because of course, if they do, then of course the creatures are going to come and eat them. So I really like how it's talkative at first, but throughout the rest of the movie there's less talking. So that's one thing that I appreciated, because this movie, they don't sign. Like, they don't use sign language because they weren't forced to learn that, but they pretty much are now. I mean, there's not a single usage of sign language, which I thought was pretty cool. Knowing the fact that you could still understand what they were pretty much saying throughout the movie. I mean, they do lip sync once in a while, but yeah. I guess my major fault of the film is kind of how it ends. Now, I did complain about the ending to the first movie, but because the second movie took place where that first movie left off, that doesn't really matter anymore. And I will say that the ending to the second movie, I feel like if they do make a third movie, then the ending to that won't matter anymore. So, yeah, but when it comes to the ending to this movie, I thought it was a bit bittersweet. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know how to put it, but I kind of liked how it ended, but at the same time, I was kind of a bit confused because, well, it involves... Yeah, I'm just not going to go into spoilers. It's by far probably the most... it's probably the weakest ending out of all of them, in my opinion. Well, I would say that the ending to the second one was probably the weakest, but I feel like if they do decide to make a third movie, and they have the same cast, then that'll make up for it. But when it comes to the ending to this, pretty much, because this is a prequel, that there might not be a day 2 or anything like that. But that's pretty much it. Other than that, I was really generally surprised by this movie. Despite the fact that John Krasinski isn't directing this film, I still feel like with the director of this film, this new director, really knew what he was doing with this one. I like the performances and the characters themselves. I like the fact that they had a cat, getting me to care more. And I just love the atmosphere that this movie goes for in this city. Kind of reminds me of The Last of Us a little bit. I mean, the first movie definitely had that Last of Us feel. The fact that there are literally just a few people left on Earth. Well, of course, there were more people in the second movie, but yeah, generally, I found myself having a pretty fun time with this one. Though the pacing isn't as well as the first two movies, because I was connected to the characters in those movies a bit more, but I was connected to the characters here, so yeah, I generally did want them to survive, and not just because there was a cat there, but yeah, all in all, I had myself a pretty good time, and I was pretty quiet in a good way, because, if I made noise during the movie, then, yeah, I wouldn't have cared at all. But I did care, so John Krasinski might not be behind this movie, but hey, it's nice to know someone else. Good to know that this new person understood the formula very well. And, in terms of the cat's fate in the movie, it doesn't die! Yes! First Argyle, even though that movie was mediocre at best, and this movie. Oh, cats are living this year, thank you God. Alright, but anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.